Hello and welcome to this webinar for the U.S. Department of Energy Solar Decathlon 2024 Design Challenge. My name is Taylor Ryan and I am the competition manager for the Design Challenge from the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, or NREL. Today on this webinar, I am joined by two guest speakers, Jess Farber and Freddie Boateng from Legence, who is our gold level sponsor organization for Solar Decathlon. And they will be sharing with you perspectives from a juror about how to ace the Solar Decathlon student presentation during the competition event. Now, before we get into guidance from Jess and Freddie, I wanted to provide some overview of where we're at in the Design Challenge competition and reinforce some expectations for the competition event. So coming up here in the timeline, you have your next required deliverable on the competition due on April 2nd, which is the final submission deliverable. Looking ahead from there, you have your 15-minute division presentation and 8-minute grand jury presentation slides due on April 16th. And then shortly after that, we have the Solar Decathlon competition event on Friday, April 19th through Sunday, April 21st. Now, I know we've talked about the competition event a lot already, and I wanted to reinforce that the organizers are so excited to see the Design Challenge student teams at NREL in person and virtually. And there is a lot to prepare for this competition event, whether that be your presentation or networking opportunities. So we'll kind of talk through some expectations today for that event and what to expect during that 3-day period. The first is around dress code or dress code suggestions for the competition event. So the Solar Decathlon competition event will be held like a professional style conference. And if you haven't been to a conference before, that is totally fine. There's no expectation of that. But we relay this to you to hopefully help you navigate how to dress and act professionally throughout the competition event, whether you're attending in person or virtually. The first thing on dress that we wanted to reinforce here is that we want to encourage dress that is inclusive of different religions, cultural identities, gender expressions, and we really encourage students to dress for their comfort and confidence level. So dress for your presentations in a way that will make you comfortable and confident when you're presenting your project to jurors. We also have some suggestions here for the different days of activities and kind of what to expect in terms of the professional look and feel of the event. So on Friday, we suggest you dress smart/business casual. On this day, we'll be doing NREL tours and other welcome activities, including the sponsor networking. So dress in a way that you'll want to leave an impression on the representatives from the sponsor organizations of Solar Decathlon. On Saturday, you'll have your presentations to either division jurors or your exhibition team reviewers. For this day, we suggest dress that as business casual and professional. And then on Sunday, we'll host the award ceremony in the ballroom at the Denver Marriott West. For this day, we suggest business professional or business formal. Again, this is an award ceremony where you might be on stage in front of 300 people. So we encourage you to dress in a way that reflects your team's effort and hard work throughout your Design Challenge project. Next, we also wanted to set some expectations to prepare for the networking opportunities that you'll have throughout the Solar Decathlon competition event. So those activities include, again, the sponsor networking on Friday, April 19th, as well as the Career Connections networking session on Sunday, April 21st. And then there will also be a lot of organic and kind of natural networking opportunities, whether that be through meals or breaks throughout the event. So be ready to talk about yourself, talk about your Design Challenge project and your career goals. And know that the industry partners of Solar Decathlon, including our sponsors and jurors, are really eager to meet you and hear more about you. So come prepared to take advantage of that opportunity. One thing that the organizers suggest is bringing either physical or digital business cards. And then if you do have a LinkedIn profile, make sure that that profile is up to date and reflects your academic background and any internships or other professional experience that you'd like to showcase to these industry partners of Solar Decathlon. All right, next up, we have our presentation format for both finalist teams and exhibition teams. Each finalist and exhibition team can have a maximum of 7 student presenters. And those 7 student presenters can be a combination of both virtual and in-person presenters. So just know that the students that you send to NREL in person for the competition event don't need to be the same students who actually present on your project to jurors on Saturday, April 20th. For that presentation, each team will have a 30-minute presentation time slot. That will include 15 minutes of a live presentation to jurors, followed by a 12-minute question and answer period. Now, before we get into Jess and Freddie's best practices for your presentation, the organizers wanted to share a few as well. The first best practice you'll see here is to develop a clean and professional slide template. You'll notice for the webinars that we give, it often has Solar Decathlon branding and really draws the audience's attention to the content on that screen. So we encourage you to have consistent slides with clear and succinct points on those slides to really succinctly convey the salient points of your projects to jurors. Another suggestion we wanted to make is that we will make your juror bios available on the Solar Decathlon website in advance of the competition event. So you can read about each of the jurors in your division before your presentation, get to know their expertise, and maybe strategize and expect some of the questions that they might ask you during that question and answer period on Saturday, April 20th. The other thing we'd suggest is if you do have both virtual and in-person presenters on your team, is to practice in a hybrid format. So make sure you know who is advancing the slides, who will be speaking on what content, both during the presentation and question and answer period, and make sure your whole team is streamlined on how that presentation will flow, again, to those division jurors on Saturday, April 20th. With that, I wanted to introduce our guest speakers from Legence, Jess Farber and Freddie Boateng, who will now go through their expert tips on acing the Solar Decathlon presentation. So Jess and Freddie, take it away.
Thanks, Taylor. Next slide. So briefly, I'm Jess Farber. I'm a vice president with CMTA, and we're all a sister company of Legence. And again, we're proud sponsors again of Solar Decathlon. I look forward to participating with all of you again here very soon. There's a lot of tips and tricks we're going to talk about using what we learned from our previous jurying last year. I was a grand juror. We'll be doing that again this year. So we're hoping to share with you what we learned from it to help you be more successful, be better successful in your presentations. Freddie?
Yes, thank you. Freddie Boateng, a senior technical manager at Retech Advisors, also at Legence Company. Coming back from my second year as a juror, I'll be judging the attached housing division this time around. So definitely looking forward to it. It was a great event last year, and I hope it's the same. And we can just dive right into things, right?
Let's go.
Next slide. There we go.
Let it light up there. Okay, so I'll start. So I think, again, me representing the grand juror side. So you would see me mainly on Sunday. You'll see Freddie mainly on Saturday. So we both have kind of a different view of these topics as we go through. But we're going to start with the first one, is start with the why. It's so important to understand your project and the rationale of why it is a project. When I look back to being a grand juror last year, ultimately the top teams we picked had really probably the most compelling whys out of any of them that made it. Again, every presentation was great that we learned and great projects, but that differentiator that really rose that group to the top was all about why. So we really understood they had an engaging purpose. It was compelling and energetic. And so to us, that's a big deal when you start with putting your presentation together.
Yeah, and leaning into the why, you go straight to the value proposition. So what is your presentation? Why are you guys, what benefits, or what are you guys trying to solve, and how are you solving it? What is setting you apart from the competition, so to speak? And so that's what the value proposition kind of wants to talk about here. So discuss the major points you want to present in your presentation as to help set a clear trajectory for your whole presentation, and really tailor it to the division that you're presenting to, and try to tell a story. And just
Yeah, so you really take the why and the value proposition and compose a story. It's really not about putting slides together and graphics. It's really about what is the message you're trying to present and what's this total story you want to prepare. Think about like back in high school or in college, even when you're writing a 3.5 paragraph essay, you really need to define what these points are you need to make, come up with those talking points, and then back into the slides and back into the graphics. But I think if you can create a story like that has your key talking points evaluated ahead of time of what you want to say, then you'll be very successful in being able to have the jurors understand what the points are you're trying to meet. Again, in an effort to be more successful.
Yeah. And the next part, probably my favorite, or what I think is the most important, is knowing your audience. Now, I think it's definitely important for you guys to rely on what Taylor's team will send to you, which is the bios on all the jurors. Just, in sales, you always know your audience, you know what you're going to sell to them, you know their pain points, so to speak, things that kind of gets them going, where they're from, where they work, type of projects they've worked on in the past, and really use all of that information to help you hone in your presentation, to really just speak to them directly. Because when you do, we sit up, we perch up, and we listen more. So I think knowing your audience is going to be super important, and I'm glad that NREL is sending you guys bios on the presenters so that you can do your research ahead of time and come better prepared for that.
So if you know you're going to present in front of Freddie, or know you're going to present in front of me, it'd be worth checking out our bio so you know where our backgrounds are, where we're coming from. Again, that's really the key, is know who you're talking to. And then beyond that, the presentation itself is a key to the success of the presentation, clearly. The graphics do matter. The content of the slides do matter. Try to be as concise and clear as you can. What you really want to do, especially if you're on site in front of jurors, you really need to get the jurors to be looking at you and not so much the slides. While the slides are important and you're making points to those, it's really important to engage the jurors directly, and so they can see you and see that passion of what you're doing, and let the graphics kind of be that background to support you a little bit as you move through the presentation.
Yeah, and we could have made this presentation with a bunch of words explaining what all of these things mean, but you would just read the presentation. So listening and maybe looking at these graphics and getting inspired, right, to actually present your presentation. So in the next one, passion and enthusiasm. I think, we all have things going on in our daily lives and things happen, but when you're presenting, try your best to just show some passion so that you want to be there, right? It goes a long way. Maybe looking like you don't want to be there can really not be in your best favor, because it shows that maybe this is not the presenters should also not be as enthused or happy about the presentation that you're giving. So just share a little bit of passion, share a little bit of enthusiasm to the stuff that you're talking about, to the work that you guys have done up to this point, because they're all amazing work. They're all great work. And honestly, we're looking forward to all the presentations.
Agreed. I would even add to that, Freddie, that, based on our experience as jurors, that's a differentiator. When you look at all the presentations we look
Absolutely.
at, you come in and be super excited about what you're talking about and really feel like you're really have a great story to tell. That comes through, and jurors respond to that, and you'll get a lot of head nods and a lot of positive feedback with that. But in order to do that, you need to practice. So you can't just go into these things and wing it, not be prepared unless you really, really know your subject matter. So that said, Taylor mentioned earlier, it could be a hybrid. So if you are virtual and in person, it's super important to practice who's doing what, who's advancing the slides. Just like today, Taylor's advancing slides for us, so because we can't all control them at the same time. So there's a level of practice that has to go into doing that. And it's important also to really, really make sure you understand what you're trying to say, and try to avoid the crutch of reading note cards as much as you can and looking at the screen as much as you can, because again, passion, enthusiasm comes through with that practice. If you know your material, it makes you much more comfortable to be able to just get up there and start talking and engage the audience, engage the jurors. And you have to practice to do that. If you come in unprepared, you use those note cards and that slide deck as a crutch because you don't know your material as well as you could have or should have. So it's a very important piece when it comes to doing presentations.
No, absolutely. And we know it's taken a lot of work to get to this point. And you're probably like, I don't want to practice my presentations. I have so much money to do, but just it's really important that you do that. Just take a little bit of time to really go through your presentation and practice it in front of friends, family, and so on and so forth. Because yep, it all leads into the body language. So passion, enthusiasm, practice, and it really informs your body language. So we can tell based on your body language whether or not you did practice, you're comfortable about what you're speaking. It all shows through it all, and that does go into our judging criteria, honestly. So just your body language, try to be positive, try to stand upright, look at the people you're presenting to, right? Try to get some type of participation as well going. And so I think body language is going to be really important for you guys here. Just look like you want to be there. That's like the bare minimum, I guess I would say. Look like you want to be there. That's the bare minimum, and everything else will come with it.
Surely everybody wants to be there if they've made it this far. I hope that's the case. But agreed. The other thing I would say to add on to that, Freddie, is support your team. So one person's up there talking and presenting.
Absolutely.
The rest of you need to be there and be fully engaged in the conversation, and also making eye contact with the audience, with the jurors. Don't just sit there staring at the floor, waiting for your part to come up. Again, this is a team effort. Support your entire team in doing it. And again, it makes it a lot more fun if you can step out of your comfort zone into this realm of doing this. It's a soft skill that this is one of the huge advantages of this kind of presentation, or this type of event, is you get to learn those soft skills, being in front of people. It's a safe environment, and you can really get some great practice in it. We do this for a living all of the time, and it takes a lot of practice, a lot of years to be comfortable getting in front of people and talking. You kind of have to step out of yourself a little bit and just get out there and do it and have confidence, and that'll really go a long way with that body language.
Yeah, and for those that are virtual, that are going to be presenting virtual, we do notice your body language as well. So if whether or not you're paying attention to the presentation, if your teammates call on you and maybe takes more than a second to be ready, that all goes into it. Whether you're looking away during the entire presentation, having a conversation elsewhere, we do notice these things. So even if you're virtual, body language still important.
And dress for success. Taylor hit on this very well in the beginning. I think she hit all the points really well. This is important to me professionally and personally as a juror. You better come dressed nicely at the respective time, depending on what you're doing. So please keep that in mind. It is super important to be professional and dress the part you need to dress. That goes a long way just in the intangible part of judging from our view.
Yeah. Now, we're not telling you to go out and buy a new suit or a new dress or tuxedo or anything like that. But I always say bare minimum business casual, right? Just come, look the part, look ready. Maybe leave the shorts back at the hotel, maybe the crop top as well back at the hotel. Let's keep it a tad bit professional, and it does go a long way. It's not distracting.
It's a first impression it makes an immediate impact. So keep that in mind. And then our last point of the top 10 items, of course, we had 10 items get sold at Decathlon. We had to have 10 points here. So the last one of the top 10 is put together a strong close. Again, you've said all of this great stuff. You've presented this great project with these great key points, summarize all of it in a way of what you want those jurors to remember about your presentation as succinctly and quickly as you can. It's like, here's what the takeaway for this is for you, and why this is important, and why we think we're successful with our project. So the jurors clearly understand that, so they can take notes. The thing that you'll find, and I'll add on to this right now, in my experience being a grand juror, it's a 5-minute presentation. So they're super fast, and you have to hear really fast and hear a lot of things very quickly. So the more you can summarize things and be succinct about those things, it helps the jurors remember what the key points are in this kind of lightning round of presentations we have to do. So again, tie it all together, nice bow, and that way we can all remember what the key takeaways are for your presentation. Freddie, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, absolutely. For the division side of things, when we're judging it, it's a lot of information that you guys are presenting, whether it's a 15-minute presentation or a 15-minute presentation. So for us, it's a lot of information. So a strong close would be just pick the one or two things that you absolutely want us to leave the room with. So it's just, if you leave the room with anything, these are the things that we really want you to focus on. And that's what a strong close, I would say, is in this moment. There's a lot of information, but bring us back to the center and let us know, hey, if you don't remember anything, remember this. Absolutely. But just know that the jurors, we do research prior to, like we've reviewed all your documentations you guys have provided. We've reviewed the design. So we are knowledgeable about most of the stuff that you guys are presenting. So don't feel like you have to just kind of like tell us everything from scratch, hit the high notes, and then really close strongly.
Next slide, Taylor. So above all else, whoa, that was fun.
Yes.
Above all else, work hard.
Exactly, right?
Right. That was pretty exciting. So again, this is the announcement of the winner of the Grand Juror Award from last year. I was up on the podium presenting this, and I get goosebumps just thinking about it right now. It was so much fun to be there. So I'm so looking forward to being there again. But again, there's so many opportunities here for you as students that you really should take advantage of. If you can step outside your comfort zone, get to know people that you haven't met before, take advantage of the recruiting opportunities and the networking opportunities, and meet somebody you wouldn't have otherwise met. This is a really small network of people in the grand scheme of things, and you'll carry these people with you for the rest of your careers and create connections now that you can use maybe in your career as you get into the workforce in the future. But just make sure you step back and have fun. I know that these can be stressful. Presenting in front of jurors can be intimidating. We are regular people. We're fun people too. We just want to go have fun ourselves and really be impressed by the messages you have to make. And again, we're really looking forward to being at the 2024 Solo Decathlon here in a few weeks. So do your best, work hard, and we'll have a great time out there in Golden. Thank you.
And I'll just double tap that. Honestly, it's super important. I mean, Jess and I, we really met at the Solo Decathlon last year. We work for the same organization, but really met at that event last year, and we've built a really great bond. And we talk to each other a lot about like stuff our clients need and how we can build. So it's a really amazing event for you guys, and to just build and network, and yeah, and just above all else, have fun. I mean, I hadn't made a presentation in like God knows how long from scratch. So it's like, how do I have fun with this? Let's add animation. So add fun, make it you.
Threw me off guard there a little bit. And then lastly here, again, thank you for this, everyone. We have a couple of links there. The Legence QR code, you can download, or you can click on that and follow us on LinkedIn, and you'll see some news from us as we prepare for our time out there in a couple of weeks. And then this whole presentation was built off a blog we had put together. Again, that link is there as well. If you want to get into the gory details of what we said in writing, you're welcome to pull that down and look at that as well. So again, appreciate the time and look forward to seeing you guys here soon.
Likewise. Thank you.
Thank you, Jess and Freddie. That was awesome. I do have two other quick questions for you to answer from the juror perspective. So the first question was, as a grand juror, what are you looking for, Jess, during your grand jury presentations that might be different from division presentations?
Yeah, so the grand jury presentation is wildly different than the presentation on Saturday, and the fact that they're 5 minutes long. As jurors, we have to hear a lot of things very quickly. We don't have the privilege of knowing what the projects are going into ahead of this, so we don't know the details. So you have to really hone your message in as quickly and succinctly as you can without overload, I guess is the word. So it's a tough thing to put together when you really want to have a lot of points you want to make. But again, really boil down. If you go back to the top 10 things we just said here, really boil this down into the why. If I look back to the award winners from last year and in our conversations with my other two grand juror partners, the why really is what rose the winning members to the top. When we had to compare 3 super presentations, 3 super projects, we're looking for these things that are differentiators that help us be able to pick one from the other. The technical content is great, but it came down to, this was a really compelling story that we saw a real need that could help the community. And those really are why we picked who we picked from last year's presentations.
Thanks, Jess. And then one other question for both of you. What are some areas of improvement in student presentations that you watched last year that you wanted to bring up for students in this year's competition?
Yeah, I think we touched on a lot of it during our conversation, but I would definitely say the body language part. Um, when people are present as your teammates, that is just making sure you're actually paying attention to them, paying attention to content, paying attention to the jurors, so that at any moment you're ready to just jump in and whether support your teammate or get to your part of the presentation, and just reading from notepads or sticky notes. We know it's tough, but to the best of your ability, if you can not read from there, because your head is down the entire time, you're not really making eye contact. So we have a hard time really being able to hear and feel your passion, enthusiasm, and just body language a little bit off. So I'll say those two things I would definitely say just pay attention to.
Yeah, I agree, Freddie. I think all of those are very important. Again, go back and look at the blog and you'll see everything that we think of when it comes to presentations. And we use these 10 points in the professional world. It's not like we just made all these up for this. This is something that we practice as our profession to win work and to win clients. That's really what you have to be able to do. So that the body language, the enthusiasm, the passion, the story, all of that really compounded with the graphics and the technical content are important, but when you couple those things together, that's where the magic happens. And I think that's where you can really differentiate yourselves as a team. So you got to get out your comfort zone a little bit. I know this is hard for a lot of people. If you'd put me in this position when I was your age, I'm not sure I could have done it. So it's a lot of practice and a lot of years of doing it. Knowing your story really goes a long way to be able to just get up there and talk. So if you can get up there and have a conversation with the jurors and with the audience, that kind of is a special thing to be able to do. It takes a lot of practice to do that, though. Yeah,
Absolutely.
So, well, thanks so much, Jess and Freddie. Did you have anything else that you wanted to share with the students?
I don't think so. I'm excited to be out there. That's all I got.
I'm looking forward to that weekend for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I'll reiterate what Jess and Freddie said, that the jurors aren't expecting you to be perfect in your presentation, but they are expecting you to be engaged and prepared. And all the students in the design challenge this year, whether you're a finalist team or an exhibition team, you should feel proud of that accomplishment, proud of making it this far in the competition, and carry that confidence into your presentations with jurors during the competition event. So they're really excited to meet you. I know I speak on behalf of Jess and Freddie there that they can't wait for the competition event and to see your ideas at NREL. And with that, I'll wrap us up here with a few important upcoming dates. Again, the next deliverable due is the final submission that is due by April 2nd at 5 o'clock Eastern Time. I wanted to reiterate again that no late submissions will be accepted past that 5 o'clock Eastern Time deadline. So please make sure that your team is in the submission site early and well in advance of that 5 o'clock Eastern Time deadline. And if you do have any site technical difficulties or anything like that, please make sure you're emailing us again well in advance of the deadline. Past that final submission deliverable, we then have our 15-minute division presentation and 8-minute grand jury presentation slides due by April 16th at 5 o'clock Eastern Time. One note I wanted to reiterate about those presentation slides is that they will not be submitted with the final submission deliverable. There are separate upload links for box.com that will be used for students submitting those slides. You can find those box upload links either in the design challenge rules or in the submission form on the submission site. We have linked to those there. So just know that submission process is a little bit different for presentation slides versus your final submission deliverable. We also have 2 more office hour sessions coming up available for Solar Decathlon students and faculty. The first is on Tuesday, March 26th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And then we also have office hours on April 9th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So please feel free to come to those office hours. We don't have any agenda for those. We're just available as a resource to answer your questions. So take advantage of that opportunity if your team does have any questions.